The year was 2087, and Commander Park Daeho stood on the bridge of the Earthship Horizon, watching the most important moment in human history unfold before him. 3 massive alien ships hung in space like metal giants, each one larger than any city on Earth. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals that seemed to bend light around them, and energy patterns danced across their surfaces in colors that human eyes had never seen before. Park Daeho was a tall man with graying hair at his temples, the kind of officer who had earned his rank through decades of careful decision-making. Today, those decisions would matter more than any he had ever made. Beside him, Dr. Kim Soo-jin adjusted her instruments for the 100th time, her nervous energy filling the bridge like electricity. She was the best xenobiologist Earth had to offer, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. The alien message had arrived 3 days ago, transmitted directly into Earth's communication networks with technology that bypassed every security system humanity possessed. The message was simple and terrifying in its politeness. They wanted to meet. They wanted to talk. They wanted to help humanity join something called the Galactic Trade Consortium. Captain Lee Taemin piloted his small fighter craft in a protective formation around the horizon. Though everyone knew the gesture was mostly symbolic, his ship was fast and well-armed by human standards, but against these alien vessels, it looked like a child's toy. Still, Lee Taemin flew with the confidence of a man who had never lost a battle, his hands steady on the controls as he watched the alien ships for any sign of hostile movement. The first alien voice crackled through the communication system, speaking perfect English with a mechanical precision that made every word sound calculated. Human vessel, Horizon. This is Overlord Dexmore of the Valdrian Advancement Fleet. We request permission to transport our diplomatic team aboard your vessel for formal negotiations. Ambassador Choi Theron stepped forward, her diplomatic training taking over despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. She was a woman who had negotiated peace treaties between Earth nations, but nothing in her experience had prepared her for this. Overlord Dexmore, this is Ambassador Choi Theron, representing Earth and all of humanity. Permission granted. We welcome you aboard. The transport was unlike anything humans had imagined. A beam of golden light surrounded 3 alien figures, and they simply appeared on the bridge in a shower of sparkling energy. The aliens were tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Their eyes were large and completely black, and when they moved, it was with a fluid grace that seemed almost like floating. Overlord Dexmore stepped forward, and when he spoke, his voice filled the bridge without any visible mouth movement. Greetings, humans of Earth. We represent the Galactic Trade Consortium, a collective of civilized species that has maintained peace and prosperity across this galaxy for over 10,000 of your years. Dr. Kim Soo-jin stepped closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her nervousness. She noticed that the aliens carried no visible weapons, but their very presence seemed to change the air around them. Her instruments detected energy fields that her equipment could barely register, technologies so advanced that human science had no names for them. We have observed your species for some time, Dexmore continued, his black eyes reflecting the bridge lights like mirrors. Your recent achievement of faster-than-light travel has brought you to our attention. We are here to offer you membership in our consortium. Ambassador Choi Theron felt a chill run down her spine. There was something in the alien's tone that suggested this was not entirely a request. We are honored by your offer, Overlord. Could you tell us more about what this membership would involve? The second alien stepped forward, introducing himself as Keth, Commander Voxdale. Where Dexmore seemed diplomatic, Voxdale radiated military authority. His skin was darker than the Valdrians, with ridge-like patterns that suggested armor or natural protection. Membership in the consortium requires certain accommodations. Human ambassador. Your species would be classified as a protected development race, meaning we would take responsibility for your continued growth and safety. What exactly does that mean? Commander Park Daeho asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. The third alien, who introduced herself as Nexari mediator Zilana, spoke with a voice that somehow conveyed both kindness and condescension. It means, Commander, that your species would surrender control of your military assets to consortium oversight. Your technological development would be guided by our scientists to prevent dangerous experimentation. Your expansion into space would be carefully managed to avoid conflicts with established member species. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Kim Soo-jin was the first to speak, her scientific mind cutting straight to the heart of the matter. You're asking us to give up our independence. We are offering you protection. Lexmore corrected smoothly. Your species is young and aggressive, as all developing races are. Without proper guidance, you will inevitably come into conflict with more advanced civilizations. The consortium has seen this pattern countless times across the galaxy. Lee Taemin's voice crackled through the communication system from his fighter. Commander, I'm reading massive energy buildups from all 3 alien vessels. Whatever they're powering up, it's bigger than anything we've ever seen. Overlord Thexmore seemed pleased rather than concerned by this report. A demonstration of our commitment to galactic peace, Captain. Our weapon systems are capable of neutralizing any threat to consortium stability. The main view screen activated, showing a small asteroid that had been floating harmlessly in the outer system. Without warning, beams of pure energy lanced out from the alien ships, striking the asteroid with precision that defied human understanding. The rock simply ceased to exist, vaporized so completely that not even dust remained. Impressive, Ambassador Choi, Therum said, though her voice remained steady. And if we decline your generous offer, the aliens exchange what might have been glances, though their expressions were impossible to read. Mediator Zilana spoke with that same condescending kindness. The consortium has protocols for such situations, Ambassador. Protected races that refuse protection are difficult to integrate into galactic society. It would be unfortunate if Earth became isolated from the benefits of civilization. Commander Park Daeho felt his jaw tighten. He had spent his career dealing with bullies, and despite their advanced technology and diplomatic language, these aliens were bullies on a galactic scale. How long do we have to consider this offer? 30 of your Earth days, Dexmore replied. Surely adequate time for your leaders to recognize the wisdom of consortium membership. Dr. Kim Soo-jin had been quietly observing the aliens throughout the conversation, and something about their behavior was beginning to trouble her. Their technology was clearly superior, their weapons devastating, their knowledge vast. There was something almost mechanical about the way they approached every problem, as if they were following a script that had been written thousands of years ago. We will need to consult with our governments, Ambassador Choi Therum said diplomatically. This is obviously a decision that affects all of humanity. Of course, Dexmore agreed. We will remain in your system until you have reached your decision. Consider this time a gift, humans of Earth. Use it wisely. The aliens transported away as suddenly as they had arrived, leaving the bridge crew alone with the weight of an impossible choice. In the silence that followed, each person dealt with the revelation in their own way. Commander Park Daeho stared at the view screen where the asteroid had been, calculating odds and possibilities. Dr. Kim Soo-jin reviewed her sensor readings, looking for any weakness in the alien technology. Captain Lee Taemin continued his patrol, though his fighter now seemed even more insignificant against the alien vessels. Ambassador Choi Therum was the first to break the silence. 30 days to decide the future of humanity. No pressure at all. They're not giving us a choice, Park Dae-ho said quietly. This is conquest dressed up as diplomacy. Maybe, Dr. Kim Soo-jan said, still studying her readings. But I noticed something interesting during their demonstration. Their weapons are incredibly powerful, but they follow very specific patterns. Everything they do seems to follow rules, protocols, established procedures. What are you thinking? The commander asked. I'm thinking, she replied, that sometimes the most advanced civilizations are also the most predictable. Outside the ship, 3 alien vessels waited with the patience of species that had conquered a galaxy through overwhelming technological superiority. They had no doubt that humanity would make the logical choice. After all, every other species had. They were about to learn that humans rarely made the logical choice. 28 days had passed since the alien ultimatum, and the governments of Earth had made their decision. In the underground command center, beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Yoon Jae-soon studied the holographic display showing the massive alien fleet that had just arrived in Earth's solar system. What had been 3 ships was now 30, and more were arriving every hour. General Yoon was a man who had spent his life preparing for wars that everyone hoped would never come. He was short and stocky, with scars on his hands from his early days as a combat engineer. Now, facing the greatest military threat in human history, he felt strangely calm. The decision had been made, and there was work to do. Report, he said to the intelligence officer standing beside him. The alien fleet is maintaining standard formation patterns, sir, Lieutenant Colonel Park Min-woo replied, his voice steady. Despite the circumstances, I've sent another message demanding our surrender. Same terms as before, but now they're calling it protective custody for our own good. Engineer Han Myung looked up from her workstation, her eyes bright with a kind of excitement that came from solving impossible problems. She was young for her position, barely 30, but her work with experimental weapons had caught the attention of every military leader on Earth. General, I've been analyzing the combat data from other species that fought the consortium. The aliens have a very specific way of conducting warfare. Explain, General Yoon said, moving to look at her displays. They follow something called the Galactic Combat Protocols. Han Mi-young continued, pulling up intercepted alien communications. It's like a rulebook for space warfare that's been used for thousands of years. Formal declarations of hostility, predetermined battle zones, specific types of weapons, even scheduled battle times. Lieutenant Kang Do-hyan, who had been listening from his position near the tactical display, stepped forward. He was a Special Forces operative who had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment of his career, leading boarding teams against alien vessels. You're saying they fight wars like they're playing chess? Exactly, Han Mi-young said. Look at this data from the Zilani resistance. They fought the consortium for 3 years before being defeated. Every single battle followed the same pattern. The aliens would announce their attack, arrive at the predetermined time, engage with energy weapons only, and the battle would continue until one side retreated or was destroyed. General Yoon studied the data with growing interest. What happened? 2 species that didn't follow these protocols. That's the interesting part, Han Mi-young replied. There are no records of any species not following the protocols. Every civilization in the galaxy seems to fight the same way. Commander Park Dae-ho entered the command center, having arrived directly from the horizon. His ship was now part of Earth's defensive fleet, though everyone knew it was a desperate gesture. General, we've intercepted more alien communications. They're discussing something called honor codes and proper warfare conduct. It sounds like they actually believe there's a right way and wrong way to fight a war. Maybe there is, General Yoon said thoughtfully, for them, but we're not them. The first alien attack came exactly 24 hours later, announced by a formal declaration broadcast on all frequencies. Overlord Dek's Morse voice filled the communication networks with mechanical precision. Human military forces, you have rejected the protection of the Galactic Trade Consortium. According to Protocol 7 of the Galactic Combat Standards, we will now commence protective enforcement actions. You have 1 hour to evacuate the designated battle zone around your moon. Hostilities will commence at precisely 1400 hours, Earth Standard Time, in the pilot ready room aboard the Orbital Defense Platform, Luna Station. Captain Lee Taman briefed his squadron on what they were about to face. The room was filled with the best pilots Earth had to offer, men and women who had trained there, entire lives for battles that had never come. Now, facing odds that no human pilot had ever imagined, they listened with the calm attention of professionals. The aliens have superior shields, better weapons, and ships that are faster and more maneuverable than ours, Lee Taman said, his voice carrying the confidence that had made him a natural leader. But they've also given us a detailed schedule of exactly when and how they plan to attack us. Pilot Sergeant Kim Hyjin raised her hand. She was one of the newest members of the squadron, but her simulation scores were the highest anyone had ever seen. Sir, are we really going to fight them in the designated battle zone at the designated time? Hell no, Lee Taman replied with a grin that made the entire squadron smile, despite their circumstances. We're going to be somewhere else entirely, doing something they don't expect. The alien fleet arrived at Luna Station exactly on schedule, their ships moving in perfect formation toward the empty space where they expected to find human defenders. Instead, found nothing but vacuum and a few automated defense platforms that began broadcasting surrender messages. That's when Captain Lee Taman's squadron struck from behind. The human fighters came in fast and low, using the moon's gravity, to mask their approach, where the aliens expected an honorable frontal engagement. They got a surprise attack from an unexpected direction. Lee Taman led the charge, his fighter loaded not with energy weapons, but with old-fashioned missiles and railgun projectiles. The alien ship's shields flared as the first missiles struck, but something was wrong. The energy barriers that should have deflected the attacks were letting the projectiles through. Kalian voices filled the communication channels, speaking in their own languages with what sounded like confusion and panic. Their shields are designed for energy weapons. Han Mi-young's voice crackled through Lee Taman's helmet radio. Physical projectiles are going right through them. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The aliens tried to engage the human fighters according to their protocols, forming battle lines and charging their energy weapons. But Lee Taman's pilots refused to cooperate. They scattered in all directions, attacked from multiple angles, and used the debris field around Luna Station as cover. Pilot Kim Hyjin scored the first kill when her railgun rounds punched through an alien escort ship's hull, causing a cascade failure that left the vessel drifting powerless. The alien formation began to break apart as commanders tried to adapt to tactics that didn't exist in their rulebook. "This is impossible," came a transmission from one of the alien ships. "They are not following combat protocols. How are we supposed to respond to random attack patterns?" Back in the command center, General Yoon watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "They're trying to figure out our strategy," he told his staff. "The problem is, we don't have one. We're just fighting to survive." Lieutenant Kong Duhan had been waiting for his moment. While the alien fleet focused on the fighter engagement, he led his boarding team in a captured alien shuttle toward one of the larger consortium vessels. The aliens had protocols for ship-to-ship combat, but apparently no one had ever told them about boarding actions. The human assault team cut through the alien ship's hull using industrial mining equipment that had been converted into makeshift weapons. The aliens inside were completely unprepared for close-quarters combat. Their personal weapons were designed for ship-to-ship fighting, not for battles in narrow corridors. "They don't know how to fight hand-to-hand," Kong Duhan reported as his team secured the alien bridge. "It's like they've never considered that someone might actually board their ships. The battle ended 3 hours later when the alien fleet retreated to regroup. They had lost 4 ships and suffered damage to a dozen more, while the humans had lost only 2 fighters. For the first time in galactic history, primitive species had scored a tactical victory against consortium forces. In the aftermath, as rescue teams searched for survivors and engineers examined captured alien technology, Dr. Kim Soo-jin made a disturbing discovery. The alien combat computers were filled with tactical programs and response protocols for every conceivable type of warfare. But every single program assumed that their opponents would follow the same rules they did. They've been fighting the same war for 10,000 years, she reported to General Yoon. Same tactics, same strategies, same weapons. They've optimized their entire military around fighting opponents who think exactly like they do. And we don't think like them, General Yoon said. Not even close, Dr. Kim Soo-jin replied. Question is, what do we do when they realize that? On the flagship of the alien fleet, Overlord Dexmore stared at the battle reports with something approaching disbelief. In 10,000 years of consortium expansion, no primitive species had ever achieved a tactical victory. Their computers had run every possible scenario, and none of them accounted for what the humans had just done. Analysis, he demanded of his tactical officer. The humans violated 17 major combat protocols and 43 minor engagement rules, the officer replied. Their attack patterns showed no strategic coherence. Their weapon systems are primitive but effective against our defensive measures. Most disturbing, they appeared to have no standardized command structure or tactical doctrines. Commendations. Unknown. Overlord. Our Tactica. The alien fleet had doubled in size over the past week, and now 60 massive ships hung in space around Earth like mechanical vultures. Overlord Dexmore was determined to crush the human resistance through overwhelming force, but he was about to learn that superior numbers meant nothing when facing an enemy that refused to fight like everyone else in the galaxy. Major Song Hai-jin sat in her office deep within the Pacific Command bunker, surrounded by psychological profiles of every known alien species in the consortium. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a mind that saw patterns where others saw chaos. Her specialty was psychological warfare, the art of breaking an enemy's will to fight without firing a shot. They think like a machine, she said to her assistant, Lieutenant Nam Ji-woo, who was reviewing intercepted alien communications. Every decision is based on logic and established protocols. They've never faced an enemy that might lie, cheat, or pretend to be something they're not. What are you thinking, Major? Nam, Ji-woo asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer from the gleam in her eyes. I'm thinking it's time to teach these aliens about human nature, Song Hai-jin replied with a smile that would have made a shark nervous. Meanwhile, tech specialist Bae Jun-ho was making discoveries that would change the course of the war. His laboratory aboard the orbital station Olympus, he studied captured alien communication equipment with the focused intensity of a man who knew that millions of lives depended on his work. Found it, he announced to his team, holding up a device that looked like a crystal wrapped in metal wires. This is how they coordinate their entire fleet. Quantum entanglement communication, instantaneous contact across any distance. His colleague, Dr. Shen Aaron, looked up from her own workstation. That's impossible to jam, Jun-ho. Quantum entanglement can't be disrupted by conventional means. Conventional means? No, Bae Jun-ho agreed, his grin widening. But what about unconventional means? What happens if we hit their quantum crystals with a good old-fashioned electromagnetic pulse? Dr. Shen Aaron stared at him for a moment before understanding dawned. You want to use primitive technology to disrupt advanced alien systems? Exactly. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. Captain Nam Hyan-woo was having similar thoughts as he prepared his stealth squadron for their next mission. His ships were coated with materials that absorbed radar and energy scans, making them nearly invisible to conventional detection systems. Against human enemies, stealth technology was useful, but not perfect. Against aliens who had never encountered it, it might as well be magic. Remember, he told his pilots during the briefing, these aliens have sensors that can detect energy signatures from across star systems, but they're calibrated for their own technology. Our stealth coating absorbs energy instead of reflecting it, which means we don't exist on their scanners. Pilot Lee Su-bin raised her hand. She was young, but had already proven herself in the previous battle. Sir, what's our target? Supply. Ships, Nam Hyan-woo replied, activating a holographic display showing the alien fleet formation. Intelligence reports that the consortium fleet follows strict logistical protocols. They have designated supply vessels that carry fuel, weapons, and spare parts. If we can disrupt their supply chain, we can force them to either retreat or fight at a disadvantage. The first phase of humanity's unconventional warfare began at exactly 0300 hours, though the aliens would not realize they were under attack for several more hours. Major Song Hai-jin's psychological warfare campaign started with a simple radio broadcast on frequencies the aliens used for communication. Attention alien fleet, came the voice of a human child, speaking in perfect Valdrian language. This is Sarah Kim, age 7, from the city of Seoul. I want to thank you for coming to visit our planet. My mommy says you're here to protect us, and I think that's really nice. I drew you a picture of your pretty ships. Would you like to see it? The transmission continued with the child describing her drawing in innocent detail, mentioning how she had counted 63 alien ships and noticed the third one from the left had a different colored pattern than the others. The broadcast was designed to sound like a harmless child's message, but it was actually a detailed intelligence report delivered in a way that would completely confuse alien military analysts. Similar broadcasts followed throughout the day. A cooking show host explained his recipe for victory soup while giving detailed descriptions of human defensive positions. A weather reporter gave forecasts that included information about fleet movements. A sports commentator provided play-by-play coverage of battles that hadn't happened yet. The aliens, who had never encountered deliberate misinformation, spent countless hours trying to decode the hidden meanings in these obviously coded messages, never realizing that most of them contained no real information at all. While the aliens focused on the radio broadcasts, tech specialist Bae Jun-ho launched the second phase of the attack. His team had built dozens of electromagnetic pulse generators using car batteries, copper wire, and microwave ovens. The devices were primitive by galactic standards, but they were about to prove that sometimes primitive was exactly what was needed. The EMP devices were loaded into cargo containers and launched toward the alien fleet using civilian transport. Rockets, 2 alien sensors. They looked like refugee ships trying to escape the battle zone. Danians, following their protocols for protecting civilian populations, allowed the containers to approach without interference. When the EMP devices detonated, the electromagnetic pulses tore through the alien fleet like invisible lightning. The consortium ships, with their advanced quantum communication systems, suddenly found themselves cut off from each other for the first time in centuries. Communication is down across the entire fleet, reported the tactical officer aboard Dexmoor's flagship. The quantum entanglement networks have been disrupted by some form of electromagnetic interference. Impossible, Dexmoor replied. Quantum communication cannot be jammed. Nevertheless, Overlord, we are operating on individual ship communications only. Fleet coordination is severely compromised. While the aliens struggle to restore their communications, Captain Nam Hyanwoo's stealth squadron struck at their supply lines. The human ships appeared seemingly from nowhere, their weapons targeting the alien logistics vessels with surgical precision. The aliens had protocols for fleet defense, ship, combat, and planetary bombardment, but no one had ever told them that an enemy might target their supply ships. The consortium military doctrine assumed that all species fought with honor, which apparently included leaving supply lines alone during battle. Nam Hai and Wu's pilots had no such restrictions. They hit fuel tankers, ammunition ships, and repair vessels with ruthless efficiency. Each attack was perfectly coordinated to create maximum chaos with minimum risk to human forces. Target the ship with the green markings. Nam Hai and Wu ordered his wingman, Captain Park and Home. Intelligence says that's their primary ammunition supplier. Copy that lead. Missiles away. The alien supply ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking with it enough weapons and ammunition to supply a dozen warships. Similar explosions lit up space around the consortium fleet as human stealth fighters struck target after target, but the most devastating attack came from an unexpected source. Commander Park Daeho had been studying alien fleet movements for days, looking for patterns and weaknesses. What he found was something that would have been impossible to believe if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. They're actually taking turns, he reported to General Yoon over the secure communication channel. The alien fleet rotates positions every 6 hours. They have designated rest periods where certain ships power down their weapons and shields for maintenance. You telling me they schedule their downtime? General Yoon asked incredulously. That's exactly what I'm telling you, sir. They follow their protocols so strictly that they actually make themselves vulnerable on a regular schedule. The human response was swift and merciless. Okay, when the alien ships powered down for their scheduled maintenance period, human forces struck with everything. They had missiles, railgun rounds, and kinetic projectiles tore through the unprepared alien vessels. The aliens, who had been fighting according to established rules for 10,000 years, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to have no rules at all. Human forces attacked at unexpected times, from unexpected directions, using unexpected weapons and tactics. By the end of the day, the consortium fleet had lost 15 ships and suffered damage to twice that number. Their communication networks were in chaos, their supply lines were in ruins, and their carefully planned battle formations had been reduced to scattered groups of confused and isolated vessels. Overlord Bexmore stood on his bridge, staring at the tactical display with something approaching panic. In one day, the humans had accomplished what should have been impossible. They had turned the consortium's greatest strengths into weaknesses. Status report, he demanded. Fleet coordination is at 30% effectiveness, his tactical officer replied. Supply situation is critical. Morale among the ship commanders is declining rapidly. They report that human tactical patterns are impossible to predict or counter. Key, what do you, Rico? The alien reinforcements arrived like a metal storm, Covey darkening the space around Earth with over 200 massive warships. The entire Galactic Trade Consortium sector fleet had come to crush what should have been a simple rebellion by a primitive species. Overlord Texmore was done with careful protocols and measured responses. This time, he would use overwhelming force to end the human problem once and for all. Admiral Park So-young stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Network, watching the tactical display that showed the impossible odds facing humanity. She was Commander Park Daeho's younger sister, but where her brother was careful and methodical. So-young was known for taking risks that other officers would never consider. Today, she would need every bit of that recklessness. 237 alien ships, reported her tactical officer, Colonel Kim Dong-woo. They're arranging themselves in a perfect sphere around our planet. Standard consortium siege formation. They're going to try to starve us out, Admiral Park So-young said, studying the enemy positions. Cut off all supply lines and wait for us to surrender. Dr. Oh Min-seok looked up from his analysis station, his eyes bright with the kind of excitement that came from solving the most complex puzzle of his career. He was a military strategist who specialized in gang theory, the science of predicting how intelligent opponents would behave in conflict situations. "Admiral, I have been studying alien decision-making patterns for weeks," he said, pulling up his research on the main display. "Every choice they make is based on mathematical probability and optimal resource allocation. They think like the most advanced computer ever built. And that's a problem. How?" Admiral Park So-young asked. "'Cause humans don't think like computers," Dr. Ominsiok replied with a grin. "We make decisions based on emotion, instinct, and pure stubbornness. We do things that no logical mind would ever consider, and somehow they work." Sergeant First Class Kim Byram was listening to the conversation while checking her equipment for the 20th time. She was the leader of the special assault teams that had been boarding alien ships, and she had seen firsthand how unprepared the aliens were for close combat. "The aliens have personal shields and energy weapons," she said, hefting her combat knife, "but they've never learned how to fight with their hands. It's like they've forgotten that sometimes you have to get close to your enemy to win." Her squad members nodded in agreement. They had been training for weeks in zero-gravity combat, preparing for boarding actions that would have terrified any sane military planner. But sanity, as they were learning, was overrated when fighting a galactic empire. The alien attack began exactly at dawn, Earth Standard Time, because even in their final assault, the consortium forces followed their scheduling protocols. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, targeting military installations in defensive positions with devastating precision. But when the aliens tried to coordinate their ground assault, they discovered that their careful battle plans had a fatal flaw. The humans weren't where they were supposed to be. Admiral Park So-young had made a decision that violated every principle of military strategy taught at any academy in the galaxy. Instead of concentrating her forces for coordinated defense, she has split the entire human fleet into hundreds of small, independent units. "You want me to do what?" Captain Lee Tamman had asked when he received his orders. "Take your squadron and operate independently," Admiral Park So-young had replied. "No central command, no coordinated tactics, no predetermined objectives. Just cause as much chaos as you can." "That's not a strategy, Admiral. That's insanity." "Exactly." Now, as the alien fleet tried to engage the human defenders, they found themselves facing something their tactical computers had never been programmed to handle. Instead of one coordinated enemy, they were fighting dozens of separate battles against opponents who seemed to make up their strategies as they went along. Captain Lee Tamman's squadron attacked a group of alien cruisers from above, diving through their formation like birds of prey. When the aliens moved to intercept, Lee Tamman's pilots scattered in all directions, forcing the enemy to split their fire between multiple targets. "This is impossible," came a transmission from one of the alien ships. "They have no formation. Discipline. How are we supposed to target enemies that refuse to fly in predictable patterns?" While Lee Tamman's pilots played tag with alien cruisers, Captain Nam Hyanwoo was leading his stealth squadron in hit-and-run attacks against the alien command ships. His pilots would appear from nowhere, strike with precision, and vanish before the aliens could respond. "Command ship targeted," reported his wingman, Lieutenant Yu Jae-hook. "Missiles away." The alien flagship's shields flared as human missiles struck home. But more importantly, the attack forced the alien commanders to focus on defense instead of coordination. Each successful strike made the consortium fleet a little more disorganized, a little more confused. Dr. Ominsiok watched the battle unfold from the command center, his mind analyzing patterns that no computer could have recognized there. "Trying to calculate our strategy," he reported to Admiral Park So-young. "Their tactical computers are running millions of scenarios, trying to predict what we'll do next." "And finding what?" the Admiral asked. "Nothing, because we're not following any strategy they can understand. We're not even following a strategy We understand. The breakthrough came when Sergeant First Class Kim Porum led her assault teams in the largest boarding action in human history, while the alien fleet focused on the chaotic space battle above. Transport ships loaded with human soldiers approached the consortium vessels using captured alien shuttles. The aliens, following their protocols for identifying friendly vessels, allowed the shuttles to dock without challenge. By the time they realized their mistake, human soldiers were already inside their ships. Kim Boriam's team cut through the alien ship's corridors like a force of nature. The aliens tried to stop them with energy weapons and personal shields, but nothing in their training had prepared them for humans who fought with knives, clubs, and bare hands. They don't know how to fight up close, Kim Bioram reported over her radio as her team secured another alien bridge. It's like they've never considered that an enemy might actually want to board their ships. The alien officers surrendered almost immediately when faced with humans who were willing to fight hand to hand. Their energy weapons were useless in the narrow confines of their own ships, and their personal shields provided no protection against opponents who simply grabbed them and held on. Within hours, Kim boarding teams had captured 15 alien vessels and forced dozens more to retreat. To avoid the same fate, the consortium fleet, which had arrived confident in their overwhelming superiority, found themselves losing ships to an enemy that fought like barbarians from some primitive nightmare. But the most devastating blow came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kim Soo-jin, who had been studying alien psychology since first contact, made a discovery that changed everything. "I know why they can't adapt to our tactics," she announced to the command staff. "It's not just that they follow protocols. They literally can't think outside those protocols," explained Admiral Park So-young ordered. Their species evolved on worlds where cooperation and logical thinking were essential for survival. Dr. Kim Soo-jin continued, "Over millions of years, they've developed brains that excel at following established patterns and working within known systems. But the cost of that evolution is that they've lost the ability to think creatively when faced with completely new situations." "You're saying they can't improvise?" "I'm saying they can't even understand the concept of improvisation. To them, every problem has an optimal solution that can be calculated in advance. The idea that someone might deliberately choose a suboptimal solution or make decisions based on emotion rather than logic is literally incomprehensible to them." The implications were staggering. Humanity was fighting an enemy that possessed superior technology, overwhelming numbers, and thousands of years of military experience. But they had one critical weakness that humans could exploit. They couldn't adapt to chaos. As the battle raged around Earth, Admiral Park So-young made another decision that would have seemed insane to any logical military mind. She ordered all human forces to do whatever they thought would work, regardless of orders, protocols, or conventional tactics. The result was beautiful chaos. Human ships attacked from impossible angles, retreated when they should have advanced, and advanced when retreat was the only logical option. Boarding teams struck targets that made no strategic sense. Fighter pilots engaged in aerial combat that followed no known tactical doctrine. The alien fleet, faced with opponents who seemed to operate on pure randomness, began to break apart. Ship commanders, unable to coordinate with their allies or predict enemy movements, started making individual decisions to retreat rather than face destruction. By nightfall, the massive consortium fleet had been reduced to scattered groups of confused and demoralized ships. They had lost nearly 50 vessels to an enemy that shouldn't have been able to destroy even one of their ships. Overlord Dexmore stood on his bridge, staring at the tactical display that showed his fleet in complete disarray. For the first time in the final battle for Earth began not with the thunder of weapons, but with silence. The remaining alien fleet hung motionless in space, their commanders paralyzed by weeks of defeats that their computers insisted were impossible. Overlord Dexmore had called for reinforcements from 3 more sectors, bringing the total consortium force to over 400 ships. It was the largest military fleet ever assembled in galactic history, and it was afraid of a single primitive planet. Commander Park Deho stood on the bridge of the horizon, now refitted with weapons that would have been considered scrap metal by galactic standards. Railguns, missile pods, and kinetic projectile systems covered his ship like metal spines. His crew had learned to fight like pirates, and they were about to prove that sometimes pirates could defeat an empire. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Cho Sejin. "It's addressed to all human forces." "Put it through," Park Deho ordered. Overlord Dexmore's voice filled the bridge. But for the first time since contact began, the alien commander sounded uncertain. "Human forces. This is Overlord Dexmore of the Galactic Trade Consortium. We propose a final engagement to settle this conflict according to proper military protocols. If you agree to fight by established galactic combat standards, we will accept the outcome as binding." Admiral Park So-young's reply came from the planet below, broadcast on all frequencies so every human and alien in the system could hear it. "Overlord Dexmore, this is Admiral Park So-young of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your proposal is rejected. We will continue fighting by human standards, which apparently means no standards at all." The alien response was immediate and desperate. The entire consortium fleet began moving toward Earth in the largest coordinated attack of the war. They came in perfect formation, their energy weapons charging in synchronized patterns. Following tactics that had conquered a galaxy, they were about to learn that conquering a galaxy meant nothing when facing an enemy that refused to be conquered, Captain. Lee Taman led the human response from his fighter, but calling it a response was generous. What followed was not a battle in any sense that galactic military theorists would recognize. It was organized chaos, planned madness, calculated insanity. Human ships attacked from every direction at once. Some came head-on in suicidal charges that should have resulted in their immediate destruction. Others flanked the alien formation from impossible angles. Fighter squadrons split apart and reformed in patterns that made no tactical sense but somehow worked perfectly. "This is fighter leader Kim Hae-jin to all pilots," came the voice of the young woman who had become humanity's best ace pilot. "Remember, if what you're doing makes sense, you're doing it wrong." Her squadron dove through the alien formation like arrows shot by a drunk archer, weaving between energy beams that should have vaporized them instantly. But the alien targeting computers, programmed to predict logical flight patterns, couldn't lock onto pilots who flew like they had lost. Their minds. Engineer Han Myung had spent the past month preparing humanity's most desperate gambit. In the asteroid belt, she had converted mining equipment into the largest weapons humanity had ever built. Mass drivers designed to move asteroids now hurled chunks of rock and metal at the alien fleet with devastating effect. Firing solution calculated, she reported from her control station on Ceres base. "Target is the alien command cluster." "What are you shooting at them?" Admiral Park So-young asked. "Everything," Han Myung replied with a grin that would have terrified sane people. "Asteroids, old satellites, broken space stations, a few million tons of industrial waste, and that old McDonald's that's been orbiting Jupiter since 2076. Improvised projectiles struck the alien fleet like a meteor shower made of pure chaos. Ships that could withstand the energy output of a small star found themselves crippled by chunks of rock moving at significant fractions of light speed. The aliens had shields designed to deflect the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. But no one had ever told them that sometimes the most advanced weapon was a really big rock thrown really hard. Meanwhile, Sergeant First Class Kim Bioram was leading the largest boarding action in the history of warfare. using everything from captured alien shuttles to converted garbage haulers. Human assault teams struck at alien ships across the entire fleet. The aliens tried to repel the boarders using their energy weapons and personal shields. But Kim B. Arms. Teams had learned to fight in ways that no galactic military manual had ever described. They used fire extinguishers as weapons, welded blast doors shut to trap alien crews, and turned the aliens' own environmental systems against them. Remember? Kim Borum told her teams over the radio, "They think logically, so do everything illogically. If there's a door, don't use it. If there's a corridor, don't walk down it. If they expect you to go left, go right. If they expect you to go right, go through the wall." The result was beautiful insanity. Human soldiers appeared in alien ship, sections that should have been impossible to reach. They attacked from directions that didn't exist on any deck plan. They used tactics that violated the basic principles of three-dimensional combat. Tech specialist Bae Jun-ho had saved his best. Surprise for last. Throughout the battle, he had been broadcasting a signal that seemed like random electromagnetic noise. The aliens ignored it completely, focusing on what they perceived as real threats. That was their final mistake. The signal was actually a computer virus written in the most primitive programming language humanity knew. Basic machine code that was so simple it could run on almost any computer system. The alien quantum computers, in their sophistication, were completely vulnerable to an attack that was thousands of years beneath their notice. One by one, alien ships began losing control of their systems. Weapons fired randomly, shields flickered and failed, and navigation systems sent ships spinning off in random directions. The most advanced fleet in galactic history was being defeated by a computer virus that could have been written on a calculator. Dr. O. Minseok watched the battle unfold with the satisfaction of a man whose theories had been proven correct in the most spectacular way possible. "They're trying to surrender," he reported to Admiral Park Saul-Young. "Their fleet commanders are requesting permission to withdraw from the combat zone. Tell them they can leave when they agree to our terms," the Admiral replied. "Tara, terms. We'll figure that out later. Right now, just tell them they're not allowed to leave until we say so." The end came not with a climactic explosion, but with a simple radio transmission. Overlord Dexmore, his fleet scattered and broken, his tactical computers crashed, and his understanding of warfare shattered, spoke words that no consortium leader had ever spoken before. "Human forces, this is Overlord Dexmore. The Galactic Trade Consortium formally requests a ceasefire and withdrawal of all forces from your system. We, ... we do not understand how to fight you." Ambassador Choi Theorim took the call from the diplomatic center in Geneva, surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "Overlord Dexmore, this is Ambassador Choi Theorim, representing Earth and all humanity. We accept your request for ceasefire. However, we have conditions for any future relationship between our species." "Name your terms," Dexmore replied, his voice carrying the exhaustion of a commander who had lost an unlosable war. "First, humanity will join your galactic community as equals, not subjects. Second, we retain complete sovereignty over our military and technology. Third, any species that wishes to learn our unconventional methods of problem solving will be welcome to study with us." There was a long pause before Dexmore responded. "Your terms are acceptable, Ambassador. The consortium recognizes human independence and sovereignty. We ... We would very much like to understand how you accomplished what you have accomplished." Dr. Kim Sejin stepped forward with the explanation. "That would reshape galactic thinking for generations to come. Overlord, your species evolved to be logical, efficient, and predictable. These are great strengths that built your civilization. but they are also limitations. Humans evolved to be chaotic, emotional, and unpredictable. We see problems from angles that logical minds cannot perceive. Are you saying that chaos is superior to logic? S'more asked. No, Dr. Kim Soo-jin replied. We're saying that sometimes the most logical thing to do is to be completely illogical. Sometimes the best solution is the worst solution. Sometimes you have to break every rule to win the game. In the months that followed, human instructors began teaching courses at galactic military academies on subjects that had never existed before. Creative tactics, emotional decision-making, and applied chaos theory became required courses for officers throughout the consortium. Captain Lee Taemin found himself lecturing 2 alien pilots about the importance of flying badly on purpose. Engineer Han Myung taught workshops on turning garbage into weapons. Sergeant First Class Kim Borum became the galaxy's first instructor in illogical combat techniques. But perhaps the most important change came from Dr. Oh Min Seok's observations about the nature of intelligence itself. The galaxy had spent 10,000 years believing that intelligence meant following logi